As you can see here, looking at these photos, these are some of the photos of the crash that you are going to note that took place from a flight coming out of Moscow, which also included the leader of the popular group over in Russia, the Wagner group. And what we're talking about is Yevgeny Prigozhin's status as far as he was on that aircraft, and it looks like it went down. Now, I've covered Niger with the influence of Russia, and I can say everyone called this. So I can say confidently that this is almost like the perfect movie scene that you've ever seen. You have the bad guy dictator that gets crossed by a lower, inferior guy that thinks he can do something better or has a better idea, but then doesn't make it happen. But then the dictator says, "It's okay, buddy," pats you on the back, and then in his sleep or unexpectedly or whatever else ends up getting his life taken away. Everybody knew this is going to be the JE, the canceled himself, the expired himself type situation. I did not expect it to be this adamant, but I'm amazed that with this accident that's occurred over in Russia, where this high prominent figure was in an aircraft, went down, no one's blaming anybody specifically right now, and they're saying, we're going to wait to get the facts. But I'm sure people on the ground probably know more. That's what I'm going to assume here, but let's go over this. So if you do not remember, only 2 months ago, that this guy that was the head leader of the people over at Wagner Group, as they were trying to go against Vladimir Putin in Moscow, in Russia, and they had made some ground. People were cheering this on. They were actually very happy about it, right? And then we saw it trickle backwards, and everything just fizzled out. And then we really heard nothing about them for 2 months, except for the fact when the whole issue over in Niger took place, where there was a coup that was overtaking this democratic in place leadership, which a lot of people were for, but looks like it's been destabilized. And during this incident, what you're going to notice is that the Russian flags are flying all over the place over in Niger. And people were starting to look at this and they're like, is there some kind of reason? Is there some opportunistic gain from this? And some people were thinking this was probably because of some of the raw materials that are there, 7% of the entire world, that can be contributed to making big bad things that go boom. I'm not going to say in this video, but the fact that Russia might have wanted this. And we can mention here that Prigozhin's time was spent in West Africa. And so I look at that, I'm like, yes, he went against Vladimir Putin. Yes, he did do that. And that was bad. Don't do that, right? We know that he's kind of crazy. And this guy's like, maybe I'll earn back his trust. I'm going to go to West Africa. We're going to secure this place, get some stability there. We're going to influence our power as this is destabilized and maybe be in the good graces of Vladimir Putin. But that's not what happened. So that brings us to this point of what do we know right now? What is going on the ground? And there are videos that are there. Unfortunately, I will share just maybe little fragments, screenshots of things that are happening on the ground that are being released, because YouTube will suppress this video like they always like to do. But you're going to like it and you're going to also comment, because that's what we do here to push videos that YouTube would say are not good. It does look like top leaders like President Joe Biden and also Zelensky over in Ukraine have actually commented on this, where Biden said that he was not surprised about this.
I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you believe?
There's not much that happens when Russia is not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer.
Right? And I think a lot of us were not. And Zelensky actually said this as well. He says, regarding Prigozhin, he says, we have to wait for the fog of war to clear. However, it is clear that Putin does not forgive anyone for his own beastly fear, the very one that nullified him in 2023 of June, and he was waiting for the moment. It is also obvious that Prigozhin signed a special death sentence for himself the moment he believed in the strange, quotation, guarantees of Lukashenko, and in the no less absurd, honest word of Putin. Podolyak wrote, referring to Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. And they say the show-stopping removal of Prigozhin and the Wagner command 2 months after the coup attempt is a signal from Putin to Russian elites ahead of the 2024 elections. Fight, disloyalty equals death, he added. And I also want to give you guys some knowledge about this. Like, the Wagner Group was not something that you guys have not encountered before. Like, if you looked at Crimea back when this first happened in 2014, they were often on the grounds and noted not being Russian forces, but actually being on the ground. So saying over the past, 7, 8, 9 years, this group has been very influential as far as this being implemented and taking coverage of different territories of the Ukrainian lands that are there, even making sure that they were blocking ships from leaving, things like that. So I'm just like, this is a big deal. That's a lot of loyalty to just have go down the drain. On top of that, they do say that there were other top leaders from the Wagner Group on this flight as well. It does look like some of the top people that have released information about this, the Wagner Group, is obviously very sad. They've released this over on Telegram, and they say this. They say the head of the Wagner Group, a hero of Russia, a true patriot of his motherland, Yevgeny Viktorovich Prigozhin, died as a result of the actions of traitors of Russia, a post in the Gray Zone channel said. But even in hell, he will be the best. Glory to Russia. And we actually have some geopoliticians out there and people that are experts talking about this, talking about the effects of this, because this is just one major blow, right? Like, this is one guy, and we're going to see this ripple down, and it might affect Wagner Group, because if you guys don't know, during the falling out of Wagner Group, a lot of them went to Belarus, which obviously is some kind of puppet, I guess you could say, to Vladimir Putin, as people would kind of be critical of that relationship there. And a lot of the people from the Wagner Group were very displeased with some of the pay that they were receiving while they were in Belarus, because it wasn't as much. And what you could note is that the group's loyalty was essentially falling apart at this point. But we have here Pete Beaumont's analysis, which says, what is clear is that Wagner, as it was once constituted, is no more. According to recent reports, hundreds of Wagner fighters who had been exiled to bases in Belarus had begun to leave that country, some dissatisfied with the lower levels of pay in that country, others relocating to work in West Africa. The force there reduced in numbers from over 5,000 by around a quarter. In Russia itself, Wagner's operations had been on something of a hiatus during the past 2 months, as it appeared Prigozhin and his allies looked for a new role in the shadow of Putin's displeasure. And with Wagner out of Ukraine after deploying its fighters as cannon fodder in the Battle of Bakhmut, perhaps the biggest question is whether it can continue in any viable form in the African states where it has been active. Although names had been mentioned speculatively as possible replacements for Prigozhin who would meet with Kremlin approval, whether any of them will be capable of filling his shoes is far from certain. I have to say that this only shows the lack of control and power and success that Putin's had if he's willing to go to these depths to even get somebody with this much experience out of his realm of sphere of influence. And on top of that, you're going to see the instability, right, that we've already seen. And if Wagner Group was a foothold over in Niger already, right, and trying to capture resources, capture influence, things like that, to kill off this guy, I mean, did he already have confirmation that he didn't need him over there? Because to be focused also from Ukraine, but also into Niger, I'm like, these fronts are very diverse and spreading across. As we know, bullets and band-aids are what are going to allow somebody to continue to move forward. We'll continue with the two F's, I'll say as well, food and fuel. But, that has been an issue with this entirety as we've seen it unfold. Again, I'm going to say, why is everyone scared to say what this was, right? Like, this is just such a coincidence with who was on this plane and how specific it was, right? And the location at which it happened, because there would be control over investigation and things like that. Like, we know the corruption that is here, but unfortunately, that is where we're at with this story. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. And what do you think this means moving forward for Russia? And we'll be honest, the elections, in my opinion, and everyone else is probably going to be the same, does not matter, because the fact that Putin was not supposed to keep winning anyway, and he still keeps going even though he doesn't have... It's just all corrupt. That's all we're going to say here. It's corrupt. We know he's going to keep winning. It doesn't matter. These are all false elections anyway. But let me know what you guys think about the direction as we move forward. What is it going to take to tip this over to say that we're no longer having this conflict over in Russia and Ukraine? Let me know down in the comments below. I love you guys. See you next time.